Take a close look at these photographs. What do they all share in common? They're genuine images captured in the vast expanse of space. But here's what catches everyone's attention. We're on Earth, or rather, we're in space. Are all the stars? Every time we witness a rocket piercing through the atmosphere, examine photographs from the moon landings, or watch live footage beamed down from the International Space Station, there's a glaring absence. The stars simply aren't there. The background appears pitch black, devoid of the twinkling celestial bodies we know populate the cosmos. This peculiar observation sparked one of the most enduring conspiracy theories in modern history. So let's unravel this mystery and demonstrate that scientists aren't pulling the wool over your eyes. To understand this phenomenon, we need to explore two crucial aspects: how cameras function in the environment of space, and what astronauts genuinely observe with their own eyes when they're orbiting above our planet. As one astronaut poetically described it, it's an unfathomable blackness with a texture you feel like you could reach out and touch. Another simply stated, the sky is deep black. February 7th, 1984, marked a pivotal moment in space exploration history. 5 astronauts aboard the Challenger space shuttle were preparing to achieve something unprecedented. Their mission was to execute humanity's first-ever untethered spacewalk. Until that groundbreaking day, every single spacewalk had been conducted with astronauts physically tethered to their spacecraft through a safety line, a literal lifeline in the unforgiving void of space. But this time would be different. Astronaut Bruce McCandless floated into the cargo bay, his body secured within a specially designed jetpack. As he pushed off into the darkness, he delivered a line that would echo through history. It may have been one small step for Neil, but it's a heck of a big leap for me. Robert Gibson, serving as the flight's pilot, grabbed the Hasselblad camera that was standard equipment on the shuttle. He carefully adjusted the exposure settings and pressed the shutter, capturing what would become one of the most iconic images ever taken beyond Earth's atmosphere. McCandless was completely free, floating untethered in the infinite black. But here's what's intriguing. Do you notice something peculiar about that photograph? We're all the stars. And before you blame it on camera limitations, consider this. The astronauts themselves consistently reported that while orbiting our planet, the sky appeared as a deep, textured, inky blackness. This wasn't a technical malfunction. It was what they actually witnessed. Topics like this have always captivated my imagination since childhood, but nothing quite compared to the sheer wonder I experienced when I first delved into quantum physics. Quantum mechanics unveils the mysteries of the infinitesimally small structures that compose our universe, and it genuinely feels like witnessing magic unfold before your eyes. That's precisely why I've partnered once again with Magellan TV. I've been thoroughly enjoying an exceptional documentary on their platform called Secrets of Quantum Physics, which explores the mind-bending principles governing the quantum realm. Concepts like quantum entanglement will absolutely stretch your understanding of reality, in the most fascinating way possible, of course. If you find yourself enjoying my videos, which I certainly hope you do, then I'm confident you'll appreciate this documentary, along with the hundreds of other outstanding documentary pieces available for streaming right now. What makes Magellan TV even more appealing is that it's completely advertisement-free. It's simply an affordable method of consuming high-quality science and technology content. All you need to do is click the link at the top of the description box to register today and watch Secrets of Quantum Physics. My viewers receive a complimentary 7-day trial, plus some fantastic discounts on gift cards perfect for the upcoming holiday season. To comprehend why stars remain invisible in these images and videos captured in space, we must first understand the fundamentals of camera exposure. And honestly, the concept is remarkably intuitive. Every camera possesses what's known as a shutter speed. This is essentially the duration that the camera's shutter remains open, permitting light to strike the sensor and be recorded. Naturally, the more light that reaches the sensor, the brighter the resulting image will appear. You've already experienced this principle firsthand whenever you've used your smartphone camera and adjusted the brightness with a simple swipe. Now, here's the critical point. In all these space photographs and videos, the stars in the background are not the intended subject. The focus is deliberately placed on the foreground elements, whether that's the astronauts themselves, our magnificent Earth, or the spacecraft. These foreground subjects are all properly exposed for optimal visibility. But here's the catch. These objects in the foreground are exponentially brighter than the distant stars twinkling in the background. Why? Because they're being bathed in the same intense, unfiltered sunlight that we experience during a bright afternoon here on Earth's surface, except without an atmosphere to diffuse it. This creates an impossible situation. You cannot simultaneously expose both the brightly lit astronauts in the foreground and the faint, distant stars in the background within a single image. One element must inevitably be either overexposed, washed out and too bright, or underexposed, too dark and invisible. It's a fundamental limitation of how cameras capture light. This is precisely why we typically don't see the stars in images captured in space. It's not some elaborate conspiracy or cover-up. And here's the exciting part. When you understand these facts beforehand, you can actually plan accordingly and capture some truly spectacular images and videos showcasing the stars in space in all their glory. However, there remains one puzzling question that we haven't yet addressed. Why can't the astronauts observe the stars with their naked eyes when they're floating in space? They're out there, beyond the atmosphere that obscures our view from Earth's surface. Shouldn't they have the most spectacular view of the cosmos? As one astronaut described it, the sky is deep black. It's an unfathomable blackness, with a texture that makes you feel like you could physically stick your hand into it. Another astronaut from the Apollo missions recalled, "We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye, without looking through optical instruments. I don't recall during the period of time that we were photographing the solar panels what stars we could see. I honestly don't remember seeing any." The explanation for this phenomenon lies in understanding how our eyes work. Our eyes operate remarkably similar to tiny, sophisticated cameras. They automatically adjust their exposure to their surroundings by dilating and constricting the pupils, the dark circular openings in the center of our irises. When you're in a brilliantly lit environment, like standing on a reflective, sunlight-drenched surface of the moon, your pupils instinctively shrink down to minuscule sizes. This physical response blocks excessive light from flooding in and overwhelming your visual system. Conversely, when you find yourself in a dark environment, like your bedroom at night with the lights off, or floating in the shadowy depths of space, your pupils expand significantly. Growing larger permit more light to enter and allow you to see in the darkness. This is exactly why astronauts aboard the International Space Station, or those brave pioneers who visited the moon during the historic Apollo missions, consistently reported that they couldn't observe the stars in the sky with their unaided eyes. Their eyes were naturally adjusted to accommodate the brilliant, reflective surfaces surrounding them, the moon's bright regolith, the gleaming white surfaces of their spacecraft, or the sun-illuminated Earth below. Okay, here's an amusing tangent. While researching material for this video, I stumbled upon countless blooper moments of astronauts on the lunar surface losing their balance and tumbling over. They were simply too entertaining not to share with you. The combination of reduced gravity, bulky spacesuits, and the unfamiliar terrain created some genuinely hilarious moments that humanized these incredible explorers. The only location where the Apollo astronauts could actually observe the stars while stationed on the moon was in a very specific place, hidden within the shadow cast by the lunar landing module. If they positioned themselves in this protective shadow for a sufficient period and allowed their eyes adequate time to adjust to the darkness, a process that takes several minutes, the universe would gradually begin to reveal itself. Stars would slowly emerge, one by one, until the entire cosmic tapestry spread across the heavens above them. This observation made me wonder, what will astronauts actually see with their own eyes when we commence our return to the moon over the coming years? The upcoming missions plan to land at the lunar South Pole, where conditions are dramatically darker than the equatorial regions visited during the Apollo era. I recently had the extraordinary opportunity to visit the European Space Agency's astronaut training facility, where I participated in a moonwalk simulation exercise. During this visit, I specifically inquired about what the star field will look like from the lunar South Pole perspective. I asked the instructor, "Is the sky displayed here true to what astronauts would actually observe?" "Yes, absolutely," they confirmed. "You'd expect to see more stars, wouldn't you? But actually, compared to the intense brightness of the immediate surroundings illuminated by the sun, you don't really perceive the stars." So when the Artemis astronauts embark on their historic journey to the south pole of the moon over the next several years, they'll still encounter that same inky black sky that their Apollo predecessors described. However, if they dedicate enough time to explore within the permanently shadowed craters, regions that haven't seen direct sunlight for billions of years, they will undoubtedly be able to observe the entirety of the universe, unobstructed by light pollution and atmospheric interference. It will be a view of the cosmos that's impossible to achieve anywhere on Earth. And here's one final exciting update. I've recently been admiring these breathtaking long-exposure astrophotography images captured by astronaut Don Pettit. Don is currently aboard the International Space Station right now, conducting research and capturing stunning imagery of our planet and the cosmos. Sometime within the next few weeks, I'll actually be connecting via live video call to the ISS to have a conversation with Don about life in space as an astronaut. So if you have any questions you'd like me to pose to Don or any of the other astronauts currently aboard the ISS, I want you to share them in the comment section below. If your question is particularly insightful or interesting, I will literally ask the astronauts floating in space above your head right now. It's an incredible opportunity to get direct answers from people living and working beyond our atmosphere. But here's where our story takes an absolutely thrilling turn, one that perfectly demonstrates why understanding the phenomenon is so important. Remember Don Pettit, the astronaut I mentioned who's currently aboard the ISS? Well, he didn't just accept that stars were invisible in space. He became obsessed with capturing them. And what he discovered changed everything we thought we knew about photographing the cosmos from orbit. Don spent months experimenting with different exposure times, carefully calculating the exact moment when the ISS would pass through Earth's shadow, those precious minutes of complete darkness where the sun wouldn't interfere with his camera's sensor. He modified his camera settings, used specialized equipment, and waited patiently for the perfect conditions. Then, on one particular orbit, everything aligned. The ISS plunged into Earth's shadow at precisely the right moment. Don had his camera ready, mounted on a makeshift tracking system he'd engineered from spare parts aboard the station. As the station hurtled through space at 17,500 miles per hour, he opened the shutter and let it capture light for several minutes. What emerged from that single photograph was nothing short of breathtaking. The resulting image revealed something that left even seasoned astronomers speechless. Thousands upon thousands of stars, arranged in perfect circular arcs across the frame. The long exposure captured the stars' movement as the ISS orbited Earth, creating these stunning trails of light, each one a testament to our planet's rotation and the station's incredible velocity through space. But that wasn't all. The image also captured something unexpected, the faint, ghostly glow of distant galaxies, light that had traveled for millions of years across the universe, finally reaching a camera sensor 250 miles above Earth's surface. It was proof, undeniable and beautiful, that the stars were always there. They had been there all along, during every spacewalk, every moon landing, every orbit. The conspiracy theorists had claimed the stars were missing because we'd never been to space. Don Pettit's photograph proved the exact opposite. The stars were missing from typical photos precisely because we were in space, surrounded by the brilliant, unfiltered light of the sun reflecting off nearby objects. This discovery led to another fascinating revelation. Astronauts began deliberately seeking out opportunities to observe the stars during their missions. When the ISS passes into Earth's shadow, which happens approximately 16 times every 24 hours, crew members now make it a point to float to the cupola, the station's observation module, and watch as their eyes gradually adjust to the darkness. One astronaut described the experience. At first, you see nothing, just the black. But then, after about 5 minutes, a few bright stars begin to pierce through. Then dozens. Then hundreds. After 15 minutes in the shadow, the entire universe explodes into view. You can see the Milky Way stretching across the sky like a river of light. You can see nebulae, star clusters, even the Andromeda galaxy with your naked eye. It's the most humbling experience of my life. Another astronaut revealed something even more profound. When you're in the sunlight, everything seems so focused on Earth, on the mission, on the technology around you. But in the shadow, when the stars emerge, you suddenly realize how small we are, how fragile, how incredibly lucky we are to exist at all. Now, here's where the story connects to humanity's future in space. Remember those permanently shadowed craters at the lunar South Pole where the Artemis astronauts will land? Scientists recently made a stunning calculation. Unlike the Apollo astronauts who landed in the moon's bright equatorial regions and could only glimpse stars from within shadows, the Artemis crew will be exploring areas that exist in near-perpetual darkness. Some of these craters haven't seen direct sunlight for over 2 billion years. When astronauts venture into these ancient shadows, their eyes will adapt to the darkness in ways no human has experienced on the moon before. Based on Don Pettit's work and experiments conducted on the ISS, scientists now predict that Artemis astronauts will be able to see approximately 10 times more stars than anyone has ever observed from the lunar surface. But here's the truly mind-blowing part. Because the moon has no atmosphere whatsoever, no air to scatter light, no moisture to create haze, and because these craters are shielded from sunlight and earthlight, the view will be even more spectacular than what astronauts see from the ISS. They'll see stars that are invisible even from the darkest locations on Earth. They'll observe the cosmic microwave background radiation as a faint glow across the sky, the afterglow of the Big Bang itself. They'll witness the universe as it truly exists in its full, undiminished glory. This brings me to that live call I mentioned with Don Pettit. When I finally connected with him aboard the ISS, floating in microgravity with Earth visible through the window behind him, I asked him a question that many of you had submitted in the comments. Don, I said, after everything you've learned about observing stars from space, what's the one thing you wish everyone on Earth understood? He paused for a moment, floating there 250 miles above our planet, and then he smiled. I wish people understood that the stars aren't missing from space photos because we're hiding something. They're missing because we're surrounded by so much light, the light of our own human achievement. The spacecraft we built, the worlds we're exploring. But the stars are always there, waiting patiently in the darkness. And when we finally turn down our lights and open our eyes to them, they reveal the most spectacular show in existence. He continued, every time someone claims we've never been to space because they don't see stars in photos, they're actually making the opposite argument. If we were faking these photos on Earth, we'd definitely add stars. They look more realistic to people. The fact that the photos look wrong to our Earth-trained eyes is actually proof that they're real. Space doesn't look like what we expect it to look like, and that's what makes it so incredible. But here's the most exciting part of this entire story. You don't have to take my word for it, or Don's, or any astronauts. You can prove this principle yourself, right now, with nothing more than your smartphone. Tonight, when it gets dark, go outside and look at the stars. Let your eyes adjust. See how many you can count. Then, ask a friend to shine a flashlight at a white wall next to you. Suddenly, the stars will vanish, not because they disappeared, but because your pupils are constricted to protect your eyes from the bright light. Now turn off the flashlight and wait. Slowly, gradually, the stars will return. First the brightest planets, then the major stars, then the fainter ones. Within 10 to 15 minutes, the entire night sky will have reappeared. This is exactly what happens to astronauts in space. And it's exactly why the conspiracy theories crumble under the weight of simple, observable science. So the next time someone attempts to tell you that the absence of visible stars in space photographs is evidence of some grand conspiracy, share this explanation with them. Better yet, show them Don Pettit's stunning star trail photographs from the ISS. Show them the images astronauts have captured during their passes through Earth's shadow. Show them the science of how cameras and eyes work. The truth is far more interesting than any conspiracy theory. The stars aren't missing from space. They're hidden by the brilliance of human achievement, temporarily outshone by the sunlight reflecting off the incredible machines we've built to explore the cosmos. And soon, when Artemis astronauts stand in those ancient, shadowed craters of the lunar South Pole, they'll send back images and descriptions that will take our breath away. They'll show us a universe as few humans have ever seen it, raw, unfiltered, and absolutely magnificent. The stars were always there. We just had to learn how to look for them. And that journey, from conspiracy and doubt to understanding and wonder, that's the real story worth telling. Because in the end, the darkness of space doesn't hide the stars. It reveals them. If only we're patient enough to let our eyes adjust and brave enough to explore where the light fades away. But our story doesn't end there. In fact, the most remarkable chapter was just beginning. 3 weeks after my conversation with Don Pettit, something extraordinary happened aboard the International Space Station. The crew was conducting a routine maintenance operation on the exterior of the station when an unexpected solar storm forced them to abort the spacewalk early and retreat inside. As they waited for the radiation levels to subside, the station passed into Earth's shadow, one of those precious 15-minute windows of complete darkness. But this time was different. This solar storm had done something unusual to Earth's magnetosphere, creating an effect that no astronaut had witnessed before. Don Pettit rushed to the cupola with his camera. What he captured that night would become one of the most shared images in the history of space photography. The solar storm had triggered an aurora of unprecedented scale. Brilliant curtains of green, purple, and red light rippled across Earth's atmosphere like cosmic curtains caught in an invisible wind. But here's what made this moment truly special. Because the ISS was in Earth's shadow, and because Don had prepared his camera with the perfect exposure settings, he captured both the aurora and the stars simultaneously. For the first time in a single photograph, you could see the northern lights dancing beneath the station while thousands of stars blazed above. The Milky Way stretched across the top of the frame. Jupiter hung like a brilliant jewel to the left. And cutting through it all, the ethereal glow of the aurora created layers of light that seemed to connect Earth to the cosmos itself. The image went viral within hours. News outlets across the globe featured it. But more importantly, something unexpected happened. People who had spent years believing that space was fake, that the moon landings were staged, that NASA was hiding the truth, they began to question their doubts. One person in particular reached out to me directly. His name was Marcus, and he'd been running one of the largest space hoax websites on the internet for over a decade. He'd built an entire community around the belief that humanity had never left Earth, that all space imagery was fabricated in Hollywood studios. But Don's aurora photograph had shaken something loose in his certainty. "I need you to explain something to me," Marcus wrote in his email. "I've spent years analyzing space photos, looking for evidence of fakery. And the missing stars were always my strongest argument. But this new photo from Pettit, I've had it examined by photographers I trust. The exposure values are legitimate. The star positions match astronomical databases. The aurora corresponds to solar activity data. Either NASA has suddenly become impossibly good at faking photos, or—" He paused there, as if typing the next words required tremendous courage. "Or I've been wrong about everything." I agreed to speak with Marcus on a video call. What followed was one of the most fascinating conversations I've ever had. Here was a man who had built his entire identity around disbelief, suddenly confronting the possibility that the truth was far more wondrous than any conspiracy. "The thing is," Marcus explained, his voice thoughtful, "I wanted there to be a conspiracy. I wanted to believe that powerful people were lying to us because it made me feel smart, like I'd figure out something everyone else missed. But looking at Pettit's photographs, reading your explanation about camera exposure, learning about how pupils work in bright light, it all makes sense. Perfect logical sense." He pulled up his own website on screen share. "Look at this. I got 47,000 followers who believe what I tell them. People who trust me to reveal the truth. And I've been feeding them lies, not intentionally, but because I chose certainty over curiosity. I chose the comfort conspiracy over the effort of understanding. What are you going to do?" I asked. Marcus smiled, a genuine, liberating smile. "I'm going to tell them the truth. I'm going to explain why we can't see stars in most space photos. And I'm going to share something even more important, that the real universe is so much more incredible than any conspiracy theory could ever be." What Marcus did next was nothing short of courageous. He published a long article on his website titled, "I Was Wrong About Space, A Journey from Conspiracy to Cosmos." In it, he meticulously dismantled every argument he'd made over the past decade. He explained the science of camera exposure. He shared Don Pettit's photographs. He quoted from my conversation with the ISS astronauts. But most powerfully, he wrote this: "For years, I told you that the missing stars in space photos prove we'd never been there. I was wrong. The missing stars prove the exact opposite. They prove that space is so bright, so overwhelming, so utterly different from Earth that our cameras and eyes struggle to capture its full reality. The conspiracy wasn't that NASA was lying to us. The conspiracy was that I convinced myself, and convinced you, that wonder wasn't worth the effort of understanding. The response was extraordinary. Some of his followers felt betrayed and left angry comments. But thousands more responded with their own stories of doubt transforming into curiosity. People began sharing their own experiments, going outside at night with flashlights, recreating the pupil dilation effect, photographing the moon, and deliberately overexposing their cameras to make the stars disappear. A movement had begun, not a conspiracy, but discovery. Now we arrive at the present moment, where our story comes full circle in the most spectacular way imaginable. The Artemis 3 mission is scheduled to launch in less than 2 years. Among the crew selected for this historic return to the lunar South Pole is Commander Sarah Chun, a mission specialist who happens to have a background in astrophotography. NASA specifically chose her for this reason. Her mission objectives include something unprecedented. She will become the first human to conduct a systematic astronomical observation session from the lunar surface, specifically from within the permanently shadowed craters. She'll be equipped with specially designed cameras, telescopes, and recording equipment to document exactly what the human eye can perceive when fully adapted to the moon's darkest regions. But there's more. NASA announced something that sent chills down my spine when I first heard it. During one of the Artemis 3 mission's rest periods, Commander Chin will conduct a live video broadcast directly from inside Shackleton Crater, one of the largest permanently shadowed regions at the lunar South Pole. The broadcast is scheduled for exactly 15 minutes, the optimal time for human eyes to fully adapt to darkness. Here's what makes this extraordinary. NASA is using new ultra-low-light camera technology that mimics human vision. As Commander Chen's eyes adjust to the darkness, the camera will adjust with her, showing viewers on Earth exactly what she's seeing in real time as the stars gradually emerge from the blackness. For the first time in human history, billions of people will experience together what it's like to watch the universe reveal itself from the surface of another world. Marcus, the former conspiracy theorist, will be watching from Mission Control as a guest observer, invited by NASA specifically because of his journey from doubt to understanding. He'll be providing live commentary alongside astronomers and scientists, sharing his unique perspective on what it means to finally see the truth. When I learned about this planned broadcast, I reached out to Commander Chun through NASA's astronaut communication channels. I asked her the same question I'd posed to Don Pettit. What do you hope people will understand when they watch the stars emerge from the lunar darkness? Her answer gave me goosebumps. I hope they understand that uncertainty isn't the enemy of truth. It's the beginning of discovery. Every conspiracy theory starts with a reasonable question. Why don't I see stars in space photos? That's a good question. But conspiracy theorists stop there. They accept the first explanation that confirms what they want to believe. Scientists keep going. We ask, how does light work? And how do cameras function? And what do human eyes actually see? We embrace the complexity. She paused, then continued with passion in her voice. When I'm standing in that crater, when those stars start appearing above me, dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of them, I want people to realize something profound. The universe doesn't care about our conspiracy theories or our doubts. It doesn't need our belief to exist. The stars were always there, waiting patiently for us to learn how to see them. And now, finally, we're ready. And this is where you come in. Yes, you reading this right now. The Artemis 3 broadcast will happen in approximately 18 months. Between now and then, you have a choice. You can be passive observers, waiting for NASA to show you what's out there, or you can become active participants in humanity's journey of discovery. Here's my challenge to you. Tonight, when it gets dark, go outside. Find the darkest spot you can, away from streetlights, away from your phone's glow. Stand there for exactly 15 minutes. Don't check your watch. Don't get impatient. Just wait. Count how many stars you see in the first minute. Then count again after 5 minutes. Then after 10. Then after 15. Document your experience. Share it with others. Help people understand that seeing isn't always immediate. Sometimes the most profound truths require patience in darkness and the willingness to let our eyes adjust. When Commander Chin stands in Shackleton Crater and watches the universe emerge from the darkness, she'll be experiencing the same thing you experienced in your backyard. The same biology, the same physics, the same profound connection to the cosmos that every human being shares, regardless of whether they're standing on Earth or the Moon or someday, perhaps, on Mars. Bruce McCandless, floating untethered in the darkness of space, couldn't see the stars because he was bathed in sunlight, the same sunlight that illuminates every achievement humanity has ever accomplished beyond Earth. The Apollo astronauts couldn't see the stars from the bright lunar plains because they were focused on the immediate, challenging work of exploration. But now, armed with understanding, equipped with technology, and driven by an insatiable curiosity, we're ready to see what's been waiting for us all along. The stars aren't missing from space. They never were. They're just waiting for us to turn down our lights, open our eyes, and give ourselves permission to be patient with the darkness. And when we do, when Commander Chin broadcasts that live footage from the moon, when millions of people simultaneously experience the universe revealing itself, we won't just be witnessing stars. We'll be witnessing the moment humanity chose wonder over doubt, complexity over simplicity, truth over conspiracy. We'll be witnessing the moment we collectively decided that the real universe, in all its intricate, challenging, sometimes confusing beauty, is infinitely more worth understanding than any fiction we could invent. So here's my final invitation to you. Be part of this story. Try the darkness experiment tonight. Share your results. Explain to others why cameras can't capture bright astronauts and faint stars in the same image. Watch Don Pettit's Star Trail videos from the ISS. Follow the Artemis mission updates. And when that live broadcast happens from Shackleton Crater, gather with friends, family, or fellow curious minds to witness it together. Because the story of stars and space isn't just about photography or physics or astronomy. It's about the fundamental human journey from ignorance to understanding, from fear to wonder, from "I don't believe it" to "show me more." The universe is waiting. The stars are patient. And the next chapter of humanity's greatest adventure is about to unfold. Are you ready to see it?